How's it going, guys, and welcome back to the channel for some good news for Battlefront fans. Coming from EA, we have some information on things that have been going down over the past few years in regards to EA games as a whole. But there has been a few points focusing solely on Star Wars games and Battlefront specifically, and given what was said, it does mean a lot for future prospects of more Battlefront games from DICE. Now, before we dive into that though, we do have a sponsor for this video. This video is sponsored by Dragon City because the channel would be absolutely screwed without sponsors. Thanks, YouTube. Now, Dragon City is a free-to-play game available on Android and iOS, and also Windows and Amazon, so it's literally accessible to just about everyone, unless you live under a rock or something. This game is a really great way to cure that lockdown boredom that I'm sure many of you are still unfortunately going through. Now, in Dragon City, you collect hundreds of different dragons just like these ones here, and they're pretty cool with a bunch of different and unique designs. Now, you can actually breed two of your dragons together to make new ones because that's how babies are made, and then you can feed them, you can train them up, and then you can send them into battle. Now, there are actually a few different PvP modes where you can fight in real time against your friends if you want to. Now, there's also different events each and every week to discover, go on new adventures, and it helps just keep things fresh. And I think I speak for absolutely all of us when I say we need something to play right now, because playing Battlefront 2 for the 6 millionth time is definitely not keeping anything fresh. Now, if you do want to help support the channel, be sure to go through the link in the description where you'll be able to claim a special reward and pick up Dragon City for yourself. So click that link, download the game, and reap the benefits. And of course, in the process, you support the channel. And finally, a big thank you to Dragon City for sponsoring this video and helping keep the channel alive in this down period we've got for Star Wars games right now. But now, let's get back to the video. So this news comes from a recent article from IGN that has gone very overlooked by a lot of people, including myself. EA's Chief Studios Officer Laura Meal sat down with IGN and talked about the future of EA's game franchises, and how EA are going to be putting more emphasis on what games the studios want to make and just putting creation in the studio's hands, so to speak. Now, just to give this all some context to what we're going to be talking about before we dive into the real juicy stuff, I'll just recite this part of the article, which says, "As I started this role, I wanted to strip away some of the preconceived notions about what games we should be investing in and really start listening to players and incorporating their voice into our development process. Since then, we have announced a slate of games that players asked for, a new Skate, College Football, a Command & Conquer remaster, the Mass Effect trilogy, and we developed free content in Battlefront 2 for several years to turn the perception of that game completely around." So that's basically the topic of what this article is about, listening to what the players want and listening to what the studios want to be making, which for us is a very good thing, and we'll get into why in detail in just a second. But she does go more in depth on Battlefront 2 at first in regard to the launch of the game. She says, "When I first took this studio's leadership role, players were incredibly unhappy with this game. We had made commitments to deliver content to the community, but we didn't have team members assigned to deliver on these promises. We quickly pulled together a great team of people from our studios in Vancouver, Montreal, and Stockholm to immediately get to work on fulfilling our promises. We created free content for players because it was the right thing to do, and I felt we owed it to our community of players." So I just want to say, straight off the bat with this specifically, that is really bad. They delivered promises on content for Battlefront players, but didn't have anybody assigned to fulfill those promises. That is really, really bad. And I think this kind of highlights just how far things have come since 2017, 2018. EA has turned things around big time when it comes to Star Wars games. Yes, I know killing off Battlefront 2 was undoubtedly a mistake, and we all know that. But promising things to a large community and then not having anybody there to actually fulfill those promises, that is not good. I couldn't even imagine something like that happening these days. Now, she goes on further saying, "We didn't expect any accolades or pats on the back for this work, but we actually saw a significant sentiment turnaround from players, and the game was re-reviewed at much higher scores. Players still love to play Battlefront 2, and I feel like we are moving past its history. To hear fan feedback and see players loving this game is deeply gratifying." Now, I want to specifically talk about the part about moving past Battlefront 2's history, because that's a very good thing. Because I don't know about you guys, but I've always had in the back of my mind that they didn't want to continue on with the Battlefront franchise with a new Battlefront game like a Battlefront 3 because of the negative stigma that Battlefront 2 has from its launch issues. So I thought maybe they wanted to distance themselves a little bit from Battlefront for at least a little while, or just let someone else pick the franchise up with the Star Wars license expanding to other publishers. Obviously that's a very big mistake because the Battlefront franchise is a complete cash cow, but given what was said here, I don't think that's the case, which is a very good thing for future prospects for a Battlefront 3 from DICE specifically. And she finally goes on to say on the broader spectrum, ultimately everything is about balance. EA will step in and make decisions as needed, developers are given agency to make the things they want to make, and players hopefully eventually feel their needs and wants are met. So there is a lot to take from this. Now, anyone who has been around the Battlefront community since it came to an end will understand why this is good news. The basis of this article talks about EA listening more to developers and fans on what they want, what games developers want to be making, what games fans want, and what content fans want. Like, that's the basic gist here. Now, anyone who has been around the Battlefront or Star Wars community in general really will know that the outcry for a Battlefront 3 or Battlefront 2 to have its live service brought back has been very loud, to say the least. People understandably were not happy when Battlefront 2 came to an end, and that hasn't really changed nearly a year later. The only difference now is most people have accepted Battlefront 2 as in the past, so now people want a Battlefront 3. And that's all a lot of people care about, is a Battlefront 3. And a buddy of mine, Star Bazaar, brought this up in a video on his channel, make sure you go check him out. He did discuss this exact topic. He said if you go on any Star Wars game Twitter post or what have you, majority, if not nearly all of the comments are regarding either Battlefront 2 or Battlefront 3. Whether it's a Squadrons post, whether it's Jedi Fallen Order, an unrelated tweet, it's all about Battlefront in those comments. And Laura does actually mention that this exact same thing was happening in regard to the Skate franchise. She said, "We knew that every time we posted on Instagram that the first comment, no matter what we posted, would be #Skate4. This is literally what is happening with Battlefront 3 right now. So this stuff does get noticed. So this article really is giving all of us a fresh perspective on the voices of fans being heard and also the developers. But now let's finish up this video with a quick chat about the developers, as EA are making somewhat of an emphasis on listening to what games studios and the developers want to make. Now, we know just how devastated so many developers that worked on Battlefront 2 were when it came to an end. It was almost like the developers were actually more upset than the players. The lead designer for Battlefront 2, Dennis Brandveld, and a bunch of other developers even left DICE shortly after Battlefront 2 was brought to an end, and almost every developer expressed in some way their sadness that they had to move on from Battlefront. And the community manager even hinted multiple times that he didn't really understand why Battlefront 2 had to come to an end. So to say a lot of people at DICE want to work on Star Wars would be an understatement. They're currently busy with Battlefield 6, but once that game comes out, I can't see a Battlefront 3 from DICE not being shoved down EA's throat by DICE themselves. Fans have already been doing that for nearly a year, but I expect DICE to be pushing their case very soon as well. And I mean, EA aren't stupid. They know how popular this franchise is already. So I think it's just a matter of time before we hear something. So yeah, to wrap it up, this article really has solidified my beliefs that we will hear something for the Battlefront franchise soon. It gives us like a whole new perspective of all of the noise that's been made over the past 10 to 11 months regarding the Battlefront franchise. EA are listening and they're turning some decisions over to the studios. That's good news for us. But guys, what do you all think of this? Let me know down in those comments below, and remember to check out Dragon City through the link below to help keep the channel going. And as always, feel free to drop a like if you enjoyed the video, and feel free to subscribe to the channel for all things Star Wars games. And I'll catch you all in the next video.